So you will be able to see the questions, not just have to remember what I said. So, our first question will be answered by Erin Brooks and Debbie Cannon. The question is, what are your 2 primary goals during your 4-year term, and how will you achieve this? What are your 2 primary goals during your 4-year term, and how will you achieve this? Erin?
Well, my 2 primary goals would be to, that's working in. I want to build a low-income housing apartment building owned by the city in order to ensure that people pay no more than 25% of their monthly income on rent. That is the CMHA's suggestion for how much you should pay. That is not possible for a large portion of the city because rent is the same price as Victoria and the income is not at that level. Another thing I would like to do is build a small village of miniature houses so that those who are homeless have a place to stay rent-free and get back on their feet while they recover and build their life back up. And those are my 2 primary goals.
Thank you. Debbie?
I would say my 2 primary goals. The first one is in light of the new task force and the funding that's available to municipalities and cities for housing. Obviously, I would like to get on board with that task force and see it happen in Salmon Arm. Take advantage of that opportunity to address the low housing or the housing shortage for low income. And I would say the second primary goal I would have is I would really like to see us work with the First Nations west of town and get that trail and connect it to our downtown.
Thank you so much. The next question is for Louise Wallace-Richmond and Tim Lavery. And your question is, what do you see as the greatest economic challenge for Salmon Arm, and how will you address that? What do you see as the greatest economic challenge for Salmon Arm, and how will you address that?
The magic word is housing. Housing is not only an absolutely required social development need, it is also fundamental to economic development. And so we must look at the entire spectrum of housing, from shelter and supportive, to subsidized rental, to market rental, including affordable ownership. And we have worked hard on the task force to get up to speed very quickly and work with the province to make sure that we're on the top of their list when all of those funding opportunities come to pass in the next few months or so. Without a place for people to live. I think home ownership is aspirational, and if you're going to leave your home to move to Salmon Arm, you have to have the hope of being able to buy a house just as I did when I moved here 20 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I certainly, the first aspect is affordable housing as well. I'm completely honored to work with the Housing Task Force that we have in place and co-shared with my colleague Louise here. We've done a lot in 6 months. We are prepared. We are speaking regularly, even as last as yesterday, with housing authorities. This is the first time that we are seeing funding offered in 30 some odd years. And I want to be really realistic. It's going to take a while to get out of it, but we are, and hopefully a chance to talk about it a little later. There's a number of intermediate steps we're doing. I would disagree that the city can actually operate, a city our size can operate and build housing. And there's one metric in there. $160,000 equals a 1% tax increase. And rough calculation, 6 units would equal a 10% tax increase all across the board. We need to partner with higher levels of government, and we are doing it. I also fully support the direction of the Economic Development Society. It is recognized as best practice.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you.
The next question is for Chris Meikle and Mary Lou McCausland. And your question is, what specific measures will you take to help local business thrive? What specific measures will you take to help local business thrive?
Streamlined approach to permitting and development, less roadblocks, developing a business from a startup costs a lot of money, and when you're expanding, it costs a lot of money as well. So when you put up roadblocks like high cost for infrastructure on a growing business, it can hamper development in that business, or actually they just won't do it because they can't afford to expand. So that would be my answer to that.
Thank you, Chris.
I have to agree with what Chris is saying, that regulations can be a real thorn in business thriving. I learned that the hard way as director of film classification. I regulated the video industry and found out that the regulations we put into place were economically strangling them. And so we got the business community together and we worked with them, we streamlined our processes and we streamlined our costs. I think you can't do something like this without involving the people who are the most affected by it. So one of the measures I take is to make sure that we have a business council here that we can work with. And we do in a way in our chamber. And I would work with these people to identify the places where we can do better as a city.
Thank you, Mary. The next question is for Joe McDermott and Sylvia Ling. And your question is, if elected, what transportation issues will be your priority? If elected, what transportation issues will be your priority?
All right. I'm not going to touch the underpass in this question because I believe that's a separate issue that should be given more time than 1 minute. Having operated a business right on the Trans-Canada Highway, I believe that the safety of our highway and how it affects our downtown core is very paramount to our community. Having had to cross that highway many times a day to access various services, I have almost been hit, I probably would say about 8 or 10 times by vehicles speeding down through the intersections and not slowing down and not paying attention. So I would like to work with the city and also maybe with our Department of Transportation to find out what we can do to create a safer highway or a safer downtown.
I could take a page out of Kevin's book and say ditto. The downtown highway corridor is a huge problem. Everybody knows that. We need to figure out whether we need a bypass and get it done, or whether we can put some things into place that will calm, as they call it, traffic through that corridor so that it's safer. I've also almost been hit crossing the road there on a number of occasions, particularly if you don't realize that you have to hit the walk button and you get 10 seconds to cross in the dark and nobody can see you're out there. So we need to make sure that it's safe for pedestrians, it's safe for people traveling in their cars, it's safe for people walking along that section. And I think we can do that probably by slowing down traffic there and putting some measures into place to make sure that there's some enforcement as well.
Thank you, Sylvia. The next question is for Kevin Babcock and Wayne Matthews. The question is, how will you move forward to increase housing density and affordable housing stock? How will you move forward to increase housing density and affordable housing stock?
For me, I see two approaches for that. One way I think is the best way to slow down on the density there and to be benefit to everybody is that to incentivize on the basement suites in Salmon Arm. The prices of the houses are getting expensive. If you got a renter in your basement, that's going to help out the owner plus the basement suite generally rents for a lot less than trying to rent out an entire condo or a townhouse, so that's going to make a lot cheaper rent availability for those that need it. The second thing is I would look at the expansion of city limits, as I mentioned earlier, to open up more land to keep the cost of building new homes relatively reasonable for us, and that would also cut down on any kind of density issues. We're kind of trapped here with lakes and mountains. We don't have a lot of space to do anything, so if we plan ahead, then we can get it right.
Thank you so much.
That question is going to be really tough because I've been on council for 16 years and we're trying to solve it. We haven't. But if you own a house in Salmon Arm, it's too expensive to put another suite in it. And that's part of the problem. I couldn't afford to do it. It wouldn't be approved. So I'm not sure that's the right thing to do. To build more housing and we contribute, which is what I heard the taxpayers maybe contribute, that might work. But the only way I can find out what you want is for you to come and tell me, please. And if I get on council, I've always had an open door, and I will listen to you and I will use your suggestions, and then I'll take credit for it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be for the three candidates at this end of the table, Carmen Cran, Chad Eliason, and Kevin Flynn. And your question is, what measures will you take to preserve heritage in our city? The buildings, historical sites, and stories. What measures will you take to preserve heritage in our city? The buildings, historical sites, and stories.
I'm going to repeat a little bit of what I said in my opening remarks because I just want to highlight that I don't think arts, culture, and heritage are artistic luxuries. They're not indulgences. They're not substandard to other things like infrastructure and business. They are an essential counterpart. And as we grow and become more diverse, remembering who we are and where we came from is vital to maintaining an ongoing sense of identity as we graft new people onto us and we necessarily evolve and grow. So how do we do that? I think building our understanding about what is a heritage site and putting things in place that allow us to preserve that, but also the public education, including our youth, that ensures that they are taking advantage of those things and as they are the ones to carry that story forward. So to me, it's both a facility thing and it's also
very much,
education.
Yeah, thank you. I've had the pleasure of being on council since 2005, and one of the first issues we dealt with was the tearing down of McGuire House. Since then, the city has also had the controversy of the Minos, where we purchased the land and tore down the house for the future expanded swimming pool. So I've been through it. In a reaction to that, the city has started and has maintained a heritage commission, which has planning, has information, heritage tours. I once owned a heritage house in Salmon Arm that was on the registry, so I've personally done my part to restore a heritage building. Along with that, the city has a partnership with Haney Heritage Village, which is on city land, but a very important piece of history in Salmon Arm. And also we work with the Fall Fairgrounds, which leases, the Fall Fair Association, which leases from Salmon Arm for $1 a year, which both promotes the history of agriculture and the future and the current
Thank you very much, Chad.
Thanks.
What do you got?
You know, the balance between growth, increasing densities, housing solutions, development, and heritage and historic sites is a difficult balance. As Councillor Lavery stated, solving housing isn't easy and it's expensive. It's interesting, I happened to bring the questions from the Duluth Heritage Society that they're asking us to answer, and they asked basically the first question. I think we have a heritage committee, we need to support it. I do say though that old doesn't necessarily mean heritage or history. And if we are going to have the densities we need in our downtown, we're going to lose some buildings that are old. They might not have history and they might not be heritage sites, but we do need to protect ones that are truly heritage, that have history, and it may be through some tax incentives and things like that that we do it. But I do not have the answer. I think the community is set up to help with that, and I will support.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Actually, Kevin, you can hang on to the microphone because we are now going back along the line with the next question will be for candidates Kevin Flynn and Chad Eliason. And the question is, in your opinion, what is the greatest strength of Salmon Arm? How do you plan to put this strength to use? In your opinion, what is the greatest strength of Salmon Arm? And how do you plan to put this strength to use?
Location, 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 and our people. We have two amazing assets. And whether it's volunteers in our community that continue to support everything that we do, whether it's organizations like the Economic Development Commission Society, whether it's the people you elect on council, and whether it's all of you, we have to continue a dialogue to find out what people want and need, but we have to keep continuing to grow on our asset of our location, use it to our advantage, and it's the reason people move here. I moved here 22 years ago because of the location. It's our biggest asset. We need to protect the lake, but we also need to make it more affordable for others to enjoy what we have. So, again, thank you all for coming out. It's the people and the location that make Salmon Arm.
I have to agree with Kevin. Without the people, without the volunteers, without the service clubs, without the people, Salmon Arm isn't half of what it is today. But we also have to build around our main attractions, which is our Four Seasons, our lakes, our mountain. Like, when we can leverage that, because we're not smokestack chasing anymore. People don't need to move somewhere for a job. People are moving somewhere to live and working because of or working out of there. They're coming here for our amenities, and if we can build an amenity like a new pool or art center and recreation center, people will move here for that. And I think providing those amenities so we can attract and retain good talent, I think is a very important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for Carmen Cron and Wayne Matthews. And your question is, what will you do to support labour attraction and retention in Salmon Arm? What will you do to support labour attraction and retention in Salmon Arm?
I'm so excited by this question. Can you tell? Because I'm the product of that. I was lecturing in Vancouver several years ago when School District 83 contacted me and said, "Hi, I'm calling from Salmon Arm. We would really like you to come." So I did. I still own my house in another province. And I packed up and I moved here because of the location and, as I was soon to find out, the people. And I was instantly housing insecure. I had no place to live, but I wanted so badly to work with this school district and to fall in love with this community that I lived in a motel. And then I got the boot because golfers were coming. And then I lived in a camper to the tune of $600 a week, and I showered at the water slides. So I'm trying to be a professional in this community, and I'm having cold showers, and then a tent, and then a storage unit. So what will we do to attract? We're going to work at our amenities, and we're going to work at our housing.
Repeat the question.
What will you do to support labour attraction and retention in Salmon Arm?
Well, the first thing I did was I retired, so there's a job there. And I'm going to stay retired, okay? And I support everybody that's working. I would like to see more people stay in town instead of going shopping. That would help. It would help a lot. And believe me, the people in Salmon Arm that have this need this. And then again, on top of that, like I said before, you tell me what you want, I'll do it and take the credit, please.
Thank you. The next question is for Kevin Babcock and Sylvia Lindgren. And your question is, What is your vision and overall plan for the industrial park? What will you do to achieve that vision? What is your vision and overall plan for the industrial park? What will you do to achieve that vision?
As far as I've seen, the industrial park looks like it's pretty healthy at the moment, but we can definitely expand on it. If our city's going to grow, those are the jobs that we need here, so the families have a chance to grow. So anything we can do to attract more industries, especially newer industries, the green industries especially, that would be a huge boom. If we can become a specialized city, then that's going to attract the best people in that field, in the niche, and we can really expand the industrial park with the new technologies that's coming our way.
So I think that we have to do a couple of things. We have to expand the services that we have in the industrial park. We need to make sure that they have proper lighting so that they're not vandalized at night and so that operations can continue past 5 o'clock in the wintertime. We need to make sure that they have proper sewage treatment and transportation services. They need to be able to get their employees out there without a vehicle if needed. I personally have friends who ride their bikes to work in the industrial park because it's the transportation's not available, but there's no bike lane either, so it's not even safe. So I think we also need to pursue new companies that will come to Salmon Arm, bring technology here, to bring green industry here, and light manufacturing.
The next question is for Joe McDermott and Mary Lou McCausland. And your question is, what plans do you have to combat the growing homeless population in Salmon Arm? What plans do you have to combat the growing homeless population in Salmon Arm?
You were asked this question by the Salmon Arm Observer, so actually everyone here might have already submitted their answer to the Observer. It's hard to answer this question. To begin with, you have to understand where the problem of homelessness comes from. And I'm not an expert, and I truly don't fully understand what goes into it, but I do believe that obviously the affordable housing is definitely an issue that needs to be addressed, but also I think our mental health associations and our risk assessment for those that are out there needs to be improved. Making the resources available to those that need them and making them easily available so that they can walk in and get the help they need right away is so important. Mental health is something that a lot of people shy away from, and bringing it to the forefront and making it acceptable, socially acceptable for those to seek help when they need it should be a priority.
Well, this is a very complex problem, and not one that is easy to combat. I was in Surrey in 2010 when Vancouver, because of the Olympics, moved all their homeless to our area. And one of the things they did was put them in with the senior population, because that's where they could have some affordable housing. Because many of these homeless were drug addicted, the drug dealers were preying on them and the seniors in the complex in which they lived. So any solution, I use this as an example, that any solution you use has to be very carefully thought through, and how things will turn out when you put diverse people together will determine your success. But we do need social workers out, caseworkers out in the street to bring them in and start the process, and we need resources to back up what the social workers do.
Thank you. The next question is for Chris Meikle and Tim Lavery. And your question is, what is your plan to deal with the increase in street solicitation or panhandling that is taking place within the downtown and outer areas? What is your plan to deal with the increase in street solicitation or panhandling that is taking place within the downtown and outer areas?
I think I would work with community groups that already work with this demographic of people. citizens in our community. I would also look at other communities around us and what they have done and what has worked, and make a plan from there.
Thank you, and this is really similar to the preceding question of homeless as well. And we all know this complex issue of homelessness, poverty, mental health, addictions, and no easy response. Here's what's already happened in the last while. We've got requests for a state outreach worker organizations. There's opportunities for our local shelter to open year-round. That's coming up. Consideration, the funding opportunities there. There's requests for additional mental health supports, and we're working hard as we speak. And this is ongoing. This is hard work, but getting funding for the housing vulnerable. That is already taking place, and that's the way we're going. I think we can come up with a Salmon solution as long as we don't polarize ourselves in this discussion. And this is a really important point for me. I'll watch the time, like 15 seconds. We can't be fitting panhandlers into the same narrative. Also, we can't reflexively dismiss those who've got legitimate concerns about what's going on. I do support a bylaw. We need to tweak the fines, but businesses downtown are the collateral damage.
Thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you.
The next question is for the last three candidates at the table, Louise Wallace-Richmond, Debbie Cannon, and Aaron Brooks. And your question is, what is your plan to deal with the increased usage and dwindling supply of parking in the downtown and waterfront areas? What is your plan to deal with the increased usage and dwindling supply of parking in the downtown and waterfront areas?
Thank you. I'm so pleased I got this question. Parking isn't necessarily the most sexy topic to talk about, but it is an important one. And we cannot look from a planning perspective. I think sometimes we make the mistake of looking at the symptom rather than the cause. So most trips in Salmon Arm are in single people in vehicles. And so we really need to have a transportation strategy that includes discussions with BC Transit, that talks about the different routes, that improves bicycle paths and connectivity, that encourages a walkable community, because the walkability score of a community is actually something that's put on a real estate listing. So we need to look at the 30,000-foot view, and I hope to get the chance to do that. Thank you.
I guess it connects to transit as well. I agree with Louise. There is a lot of people that work in our downtown, and you have one person coming into town in one vehicle and then parking it downtown. So I think that if we look at our transportation issues and do a transportation plan, I was actually on the Downtown Parking Commission when I was on council, and there is quite a few spaces available downtown, and it's always a hot potato with our businesses downtown as to how to handle, a 15-minute parking spot or a loading or unloading zone. So I think really we need to look at it, the big picture, and maybe get people either carpooling or using transit if we could get it working for people working downtown.
I agree with Louise and Debbie. We need to improve public transit. However, when it comes to parking, there's a solution on base when I was in the military. They gave priority parking spots to those who carpooled in to the base, as Victoria has a horrendous traffic problem. Anyone who's been in knows that. The military contributed a large amount to that. And the base helped to rectify that by giving those who would carpool into work nice parking spots that are close to where they want to be. We could perhaps designate some of the best parking spots in the Ross Street parking lot right behind us here, or along the main streets as carpool parking only.
Thank you so much, Jim. Well, we've come to the area now on our agenda where our our candidates will actually benefit from stretching their limbs, because we're going to have a show of hands for the next 4 questions. And this will be yes or no, whether you support these next 4 areas. So, the good news is you don't have to pass the microphone backwards and forwards. So the first question is, do you support the procurement of funding for the Ross Street underpass? Do you support the procurement of funding for the Ross Street underpass? All those who would support that, so yes. Thank you. And all those who don't support that? Well, they do actually have the option of abstaining, so if they did not vote yes, then and not no, so it was an abstention. The next question is, cultural planning is a process for identifying and leveraging a community's cultural resources and integrating those resources across all facets of local planning and decision-making. Do you support the creation and implementation of a cultural master plan for Salmon? Yes? I think that was unanimous. Thank you. The third question is, do you support the development and construction of a performing arts centre? Yes? Is there, thank you. Is there any no's? Okay, we have 2 no's. Okay, thank you. And the final question is, we are at risk for forest fires, large-scale flooding, water contamination resulting from rail or transport spillage, landslides, etc. Do you support the creation of a Salmon Arm emergency preparedness and disaster recovery program? Thank you. Is there any no's? Okay. Well, thank you very much for answering those 4 questions. You're actually doing very well. We're on time, which is excellent. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank all our council candidates for their time and energy in attending this event. We're going to have a 10-minute break now.